Back to the topic of the princes that nobody gave a fuck about, we arrive at Momoze, the 12th prince of the kingdom, far away in the list, but also really close to being the product of the cuckold kingdom. She is part of the princes that do have full siblings, an important detail about her situation. And down the line, it is one of the major plot points of her story, or should I say her personality. It is all obviously related. I'm just pulling your leg. In whichever case, you don't really have a choice here. You gotta take my word for gospel, since we are not getting any more news from her. She's gone, she's part of the retired princes, sadly. And I can't say it's a surprise, because you see, the way that the private guard system works in the royalty of Kakin is kind of fucked up. You see, it's not a meritocracy, it's the other kind of crassy, a crassy, the one where the longer you've been here, the more power you have. In that sense, the older the queen is, or at least the older she's been married to the king, the more power she has. And by power, I mean the amount of private guards that are working for her undercover in the other queen's camps. But amount of power also means power in general. They also just do have more power. And so, with some quick math, we can quickly figure out that the result of Momoze being the 12th prince and the queen being the 7th has the simple result of she is fucked in some type of way. Now, don't let this equation fool you into thinking that she was fucked just due to the way that it was shaped. She was also fucked by the fact that the queen seems to have had other priorities. They might have the name of Miriam being the direct sibling of our girl Momoze, effectively leaving our girl in the tiger's den, or in the wolf's nest, or in the nest of the hornets, or in the trap for the bear, or in the hunter's trap, or in the bear's cave, or in the mouth of the lion. Simply put, she was put to death. Now, was it fully calculated and intentional, or was it simply a mistake due to a natural favoritism that she had for Prince Miriam? Again, it's still up in the air, but the results still speak for themselves. The prince is dead, and in some ways, it does help the queen and Miriam, and in others, well, it does still make her sad. Whichever it is, this moment still is the crux on the shape of her personality. You see, whether it's only perceived or real that the queen does prioritize Miriam, Momoze seems to believe it's the case, and seems to have believed so or lived so a long time in her life. So much so that she seems to have accepted it as a matter of fact and developed or thinks she has developed to become independent from that attention that she desires from her mother. In some other words, she has become an adult, or the fantasies of what an adult is like or what an adult should be from the perspective of a child. I mean, adult to the point where it might be too old because the activities that she enact are pretty much for grandmas. She has a rocking chair and yarn and two needles. She is out here knitting. I mean, damn, she's a knitter. And enacting that grandma spirit, she accepts the changes that were made by her mother for Prince Miriam to receive all the private guards, although she does rationalize it by calling it a resolution of the weakness that Miriam and her mother suffer from. It's safe to assume that this has been her protection throughout her life for these types of instances that have probably happened more than once. Now, one of my prime reasons for thinking so is the introduction of Nenbeast. Did I remind you that Nenbeast are a representations of the princes and are a prime representation of their psychological states? And Momoze's was the one to draw first blood. You see, in her cutesy little form of a hamster, the Nenbeast went for the quarters of the 14th prince and orchestrated an attack. Now, what we want to focus on is the process where she took control of one of the people in there. And if you've ever had a child ask for your attention by repeating the same thing again and again for your attention, you might understand how this process works. Because that's the approach that the Nen Beast goes for, but you can still see the politeness that is inherently within Momoze of asking so politely for the time and waiting for that yes to proceed. But also it represents the hidden facets of Momoze that is simply to go out of her way to ask for somebody else their time. That inner child, that inner selfishness to just do that is what that Nanbis represents from Momoze. But it does definitely leave us with the question of why did she go for the 14th prince first? Or at least, why did she go for her guards or anybody else that was the target of the Nen Beast? Now, Nen Beasts are not controlled manually. They are automatically going for what instinctually she feels like she should be doing, or at least that the Nen Beast feel like she should be doing, based entirely on the psychology of Momoze. Well, here's what I think of it. First off, I do think that Momoze's mental state has influenced the fact that the Nen Beast attacked so soon and so blatantly the 14th prince. I doubt that it was a strategical choice as much as it was a technical choice because of the closeness of the 14th prince to the room of the 12th prince. That attack was definitely due to the perceived maturity of the 12th prince, blinding her from the true nature of the succession war. Add to that, that attack not being targeted at Mariam might mean that she doesn't resent him, but also that she might even care deeply for him. And so I think that would be all the elements that would help us to figure out who Momose is, or at least a version of her, based on these elements. That was without counting on one of the most obvious elements that I think I've just glossed over for all the chapters in the past, but I've only now come up to realize is so obvious, and that is the shape itself, the form itself of the Nen Beast. You see, this rodent looking ass Nen Beast, well, reminds us all of a rodent, I'm sure. But when you think of rodents in this succession war, in this very arc, there is one prominent, or if you want to say not so prominent, but still out there, rodent that nobody's been paying attention to, but was so close and just all over the pages every time I turn them around. And it's obviously Miriam's rodent, Miriam's hamster, that he has been parading around for all these chapters. But we've never known or never noticed that Momoze was paying attention to it, and I'm sure was paying attention to it, and maybe even, if I'm theorizing right, was really liking and might have wanted to have one of the same, because you can see a big ass heart sign on the chest of the Nen Beast. But knowing Momoze's nature as to not want to be a burden, she probably kept it to herself and never expressed that she did want a hamster, even though she probably did. And other aspects of the Nen Beast are things that we notice later on. We see the Nen Beast get on the shoulder, but we also see another form of the Nen Beast in the form of the spider with the bare head, but with the stitches all around. Stitches that are obviously a callback to the fact that she is a knitter. And so I do think that those elements were pointing at who Momoze is, or maybe I should say who Momoze was. And she was a young prince that was keeping to herself but truly wanted the attention of the world, but never got it, but still was doing all she could so she could deserve that attention by being the nice, by appearance at least, responsible and no burdenic child. And through that expression of what she feels like adulthood should look like, well, that's who Momoze ended up representing. And so that would be where I would stop. And I would say, well, thank you for the watch. It was good to have you around. I hope to see you again. You can tell me what you think about everything. And ciao, ciao.